nerds, what's up? It's time to do the book versus show breakdown for season 2 of The Wheel of Time. In case you missed it, I did this for season 1, and you can find that all in my Wheel of Time playlist, as well as my overall thoughts on season 1. Now, if you've been here, you'll know that season 1 ended up being kind of a disappointment for me after I had high hopes in the beginning and kind of gave them a lot of grace. But you know what? A lot of time has passed. I saw other worse shows during that time, and so I'm ready to give Wheel of Time another chance. So today we will be, of course, breaking down episode 1, all of the book to show comparisons. This isn't to be totally negative about the show. This is more to be a resource to either people who are not planning on reading the books but are curious of how it's different, or people who have not read the books in a long time and just want to be reminded of the finer details. As a reminder, I'm just doing the big picture things, and I'm also making sure to keep this spoiler free of later parts of the series. So if you are someone who is here who has not read the books, I am only going to be talking about stuff that is shown in the show, so you can be safe to watch this. Now, from what I've heard, mostly season 2 is going to be combining book 2, The Great Hunt, and book 3, The Dragon Reborn, so that's what I'm expecting to cover today. Without further ado, let's get into it. So actually we're going to do a quick start off before we start watching the show, which is just to let you know that nobody is where they should be in this show. Really, when we start this season, everyone should have been together, and instead we are all in very separate locations. So keep that in mind. I will go over where people should be as we go through the season, but people are in different locations, so I'm going to talk about in terms of what people are doing and where they're at, but no, basically everything is different from the start of The Great Hunt at this point because all of our characters are in different locations. Okay, so this actually matches the prologue of The Great Hunt, or at least that's like what I feel like they're doing. The scene is a bit different. In The Great Hunt, there are way more people, and it's not like Ishmael like is getting personal with a little girl or anything, but basically it is the scene of a bunch of dark friends, a bunch of people who are on the dark side meeting together, kind of hidden, so no one knows who they are. This is also introducing us to the Black Aja, which is definitely a thing that becomes more of a prominent part of The Great Hunt. Okay, so we covered this at the end of last season, but once again, Moiraine wasn't shielded or stilled or cut off from the source at this point. She's still just saying cut off, so I'm guessing it's not exactly stilled, but they are kind of acting like she is because they're never talking about shielding or a way to get it off. But yeah, they're right. This would be extremely upsetting. So again, no, they aren't here with Varen and her sister in the house. We'll get there. Moiraine is actually travels with the Emerald Seat and Egwene and Nynaeve and Elaine, who we haven't met yet, and they're traveling to the White Tower from where they were all together at the beginning of the book. So she's actually with the girl. She's not separately at this other place, again, because she wasn't cut off from the source. So this is what I'm saying. So this Aes Sedai is credited as being Adalias, but Adalias is of the Brown Aja, and she has a sister who's of the Green Aja, who's a different person, is not Varen. But this person's acting more like the Green Aja, so I'm kind of wondering if they combined her and her sister together, and now they're making her a sister of Varen. I think that's what's happening. You let me know if that's not, but yeah, this is definitely very different than who Adalias was in the book, but she was a small character anyway. Master Doman! I was actually pretty excited to see Bail Doman. He's actually a much bigger character in book 1. That's when we first meet him, and he actually takes Mat and Rand and Tom on his boat and helps them escape Trollocs and stuff like that. So it's definitely very different. We would have known him a lot more from Eye of the World. So it's kind of interesting. Nynaeve actually kind of had a deal because she was so strong and she was older than what they would normally bring into the tower that she was raised directly to accept it. So she did not have to be a novice at all. But she was taught for a while they were traveling by Varen, actually. Like Egwene and Egwene and Nynaeve and I think Elaine were taken by different Aes Sedai, including Varen, into tents and like taught by them while they were traveling to the White Tower. And then once they got there, she was raised. So because they didn't do that traveling scene, that's probably why they kept her as a novice for a little bit. Oh, also, are we just ignoring that Egwene brought Nynaeve back from the dead? Like, cool. Yeah, me too. I'm gonna forget that ever happened. As a reminder, this isn't actually how weaves work. We can't really see them in the books, but obviously that makes sense that they're showing the weaves in the show. Like clearly that would be a very annoying thing if you couldn't see them as a visual medium. But yeah, this wasn't a thing they had to do. So I'm almost positive Liandrin did not kill a novice. Like almost positive. I don't think that's a thing. But also like I talked about this last season, Liandrin in general is just like very different. She is getting way more kind of character development, way more plot. She was very aloof in the books, very separate. Like, she really didn't like to talk to people that way. And if she did talk to them, it was only to find information out about the 3 boys, to kind of figure out who the Dragon Reborn might be. So it just like was a very different vibe. Oh, so are we just pretending Loial never got stabbed with that dagger? That's, you know, yes, me too. I'll forget that too, because it was a bad choice. So yeah, we can just all move on. That's fine. So obviously, again, Perrin knows where Mat and Rand are, because Mat, Rand, and Perrin are all together searching for the Horn of Valere. They all go together in this group, so he wouldn't be wondering where they are. They also don't hire a sniffer. So they actually have someone named Hurin with them in the books who is the sniffer, and the entire thing is that Perrin can also smell it too, and he just pretends he has Hurin's ability because he doesn't want it to show what ability he already knows he has from book 1, but we still haven't seen that in the show, so I won't spoil it for you. So obviously, Elyas wasn't the hired sniffer. He was a character that Perrin meets in book 1 who has the same abilities as him, and Elyas in book 1 actually kind of like trains Perrin and stays with him and teaches him a lot of ways. So we actually would know way more about Elyas at this point, and Perrin would know more about his abilities, but since I am guessing they are eventually getting there, I won't spoil it. Okay, yes, Kulander and the Heartstone, that is a thing, and Bael Daman bought one, but I don't think he gives it to Moiraine. I think Moiraine just ends up finding it later, but like the whole Broken Seals thing, I don't think they interact, and he doesn't give it to her, but you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, this whole conversation is kind of confusing to me. Lan wouldn't want to leave. Like, I can't tell if he's trying to say like he wants to leave, but we'll get to it when we kind of see stuff later, but that's just not how it went down. Nynaeve doesn't train with warders. And, you know, typically women are not bonded as warders. And like, maybe this warder was just making a joke, but no, like, they wouldn't be like, Nynaeve, you could just be a warder. Cause like, that's not a thing. It's a very typically male calling, which is very specific for things that happen later in the books, to be established that it's a male thing. So I just want to say, I think we've seen so much warder love with their Aes Sedai because they are really focusing on the Green Aja. And yes, some Aes Sedai did marry their warders, but it was mostly in the Green Aja only, not very often other places. I feel like in the book, the warder Aes Sedai relationship was much more shown to be like Moiraine Lan's relationship in a lot of ways, like much more friendship, kind of ride or die to the end, and not always romance. And I feel like, interestingly enough, the show is just going so heavy on the romance factor. Not that that didn't happen. It's not like it's incorrect. Like, Greens definitely had romantic relationships with their warders, but I feel like we're only really seeing those relationships, especially with like how she's hitting on Lan and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting. I just personally don't think there was that much of a romance vibe in the books. So yes, Nynaeve can only channel when she's angry. We've covered that. This scene does happen, but it's in different circumstances, and it's not with Liandrin. But for the life of me, I cannot remember who does this to Nynaeve. Someone like traps her like this, and they're like, wow, you did that after only seeing me do the weave once. And I swear for the life of me, cannot remember. So please, book people, in the comments, let me know when it is. But yes, it's at a different location, a different time, and it's not Liandrin who does this. This isn't really a book conversation. I just thought it was very funny that Perrin is like, oh, I'm mad at Padan Fain because he brought the trolls that killed my wife. And it's like, no, Perrin, you killed your wife. But you also didn't have a wife in the book, so it's fine. Okay, Mat is not with Liandrin. This is so weird. I do not get this at all. We can talk about that later, but no. Mat is not like trapped or like being held captive by Liandrin. He's with Perrin and Rand looking for the Horn of Valere. Well, I should also say this. I mentioned this at the end of last season. So the whole reason Mat is also with them is that Padan Fain takes the dagger with the horn, and Mat isn't healed yet. He is still tied to the dagger, and without being near the dagger, he will die. So there's also like this added thing of Mat is dying without the dagger, which is why he's there. But it seems like Mat is healed. And so technically at the end of the Great Hunt, or actually it must be the beginning of the Dragon Reborn book 3, Mat is in the White Tower, and they want him to stay there because they healed him and they are worried about him leaving. So he kind of is like trapped in the tower, but it's not by like Liandrin, and people know he's there. So it's very different. So here we are. So Moiraine does leave Lan at one point in the Dragon Reborn, so that's book 3. And that's kind of what this scene reminds me of, but it's very different. Like, he goes after her, he's like, oh, she doesn't know that these hounds will be after her and she won't be mad because I need to help her. And she's not so rude. Like, she's being so rude to Lan. Like, that's not how it is. Like, she respects Lan a lot. So that it's just not how it is. Okay, so my opinions on this episode, just so far. I'm not going to be too judgmental about Mat yet because a lot of things went wrong with Matt, and so I know they're trying to like find their sea legs, so I'm just kind of gonna wait and see what the other episodes show us of Matt. But it is weird right now. I think it's very interesting how much story they're giving Liandrin, and specifically how much they're tying Liandrin to Nynaeve specifically. That's definitely not in the books that way. So I'm really curious where they're going with that. I know a lot of book fans have thought that maybe they're combining her with Eladia, so we'll see how that is. But I'm curious to see where that goes. I don't hate it. I don't think it's bad to set up Liandrin as a more maybe nuanced or more, full character, but they are giving her a lot more screen time than I expected, so I'm curious about that. I think it's interesting how they're kind of trying to get on track. I don't have like any like major complaints yet about kind of what they're doing. I do think it's strange that everyone's so separated, but we'll talk more about that I think in episode 2. But I kind of see the vision, especially with Egwene and Nynaeve. Like, they're kind of where they should be, like, in some ways. I think they're moving that plot along in a way that makes sense to me. So for me, it's really like the boys' storylines that I'm the most curious how they're going to kind of make it so we get to the right places by the end of the season. Let me know what you thought of episode 1 in the comments below, and check, I will have episode 2 and episode 3 up pretty soon after this, so you can go check those out. And then of course, weekly, I will be doing the play-by-play, and I want to hear how you guys are feeling about the show. So please leave the comments. As always, if you like these kind of videos, please like and subscribe. That is the best way to support me. And if you want to see what I'm currently reading, as well as other nerdy rants, you can check me out on Instagram at bookborn.reviews. I'll see you next time. Bye.